the president of the United States appeared to announce a completely unprecedented American policy towards Gaza and the people that live there that on its face would both violate international law and be seen by millions, maybe hundreds of millions or billions around the world as the U.S. backing explicit ethnic cleansing. The announcement has enormous implications for the region, for Palestinians in Gaza, for U.S. service members who apparently are going to be pressed into service for this project. President Trump announcing the U.S. would, in his words, own, that's the word he used, own Gaza, that it would transfer the population of the 1.8 million Palestinians who live there amidst the rubble and the damage, those who have survived the last year and a half, that they would be transferred out of Gaza into what he speculated could be as many as a dozen other countries that will apparently take them in. He said the U.S. would possibly send American troops to Gaza and develop the region into, quote, the Riviera of the Middle East.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different, just can't go back.
You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there? Redevelopment?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area. We have an opportunity to do something that could be phenomenal. And I don't want to be cute, I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so this could be so magnificent.
Now, it's a little unclear whether this was an announcement of a new policy, although it seemed to be something he deliberated on, the commander-in-chief, or it was just Donald Trump riffing off the cuff. But again, he said all this on stage with Benjamin Netanyahu after the two men had met in the Oval Office, so it seemed to be a formal policy announcement. The President of the United States saying that we need to try something new in the Middle East, and apparently something new means the American occupation and forced depopulation and expulsion of sovereign territory currently inhabited by 1.8 million people. Senator Chris Van Hollen is a Democrat of Maryland. He sits on the Foreign Relations Committee. He's been very outspoken about U.S. policy in the Middle East. He joins me now. Senator, I guess I just first, this appears to be an actual announcement of current U.S. policy that we will own Gaza, that we will go in, and that U.S. troops might be sent. Your reaction?
So, Chris, I think we need to reiterate what the President of the United States just said, and you said it, but it bears repeating. He just said that it will be United States policy to forcibly displace 2 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. That is ethnic cleansing by another name. He said the United States would then own the Gaza Strip and that we would develop the Gaza Strip and that other countries would take these Palestinians. He says he's talked to a lot of people and they think it's a great idea. Well, we know that just a few weeks ago, the Arab countries, key Arab countries, had an emergency meeting and responded forcefully against this idea and said it was unacceptable. So what the president is doing here is really throwing a match on an already very volatile region. This is something that Iran and our adversaries will celebrate. The super far right wing in Israel will celebrate. In fact, Ben-Gvir, one of the farthest right members, has already tweeted out his support for the president's idea. So this is a very volatile mix in addition to being despicable in so many ways.
Yeah, there's a few dimensions here it's worth, and if I sound a little stunned, it's because I really am. the forcible expulsion of 2 million people is an atrocity. That's the kind of thing that, if any other nation state does it, we view it as an atrocity. You can't forcibly expel people. I'm not even clear. I mean, it's obviously a violation of international law. I'm not even clear that he has American legal authority to do something like this.
Well, certainly he doesn't have the legal authority to deploy American forces, right, to push 2 million people out of Gaza. That would require congressional authorization. He also, of course, ran on being the president who was going to stop all wars, not get us in the middle of more conflicts. So this is why it is such a jaw-dropping moment for the American people and the country, for the President of the United States to say, as you say, I mean, this isn't just like a paper violation of international law. It is ethnic cleansing by another name, and it will certainly embolden our adversaries. And it is really going to worry is a soft word. It's going to scare our friends. And this is a moment, Chris, for the Arab countries to tell President Trump that they meant what they said, that they oppose this idea, and that they believe that the only way to secure long-term peace and stability and dignity for Israelis and Palestinians alike is through self-determination for both peoples and a two-state solution. That's what they've been saying. This is really going to be a moment to look carefully at how they respond.
There's a moral dimension, there's a strategic and legal dimension, but there's also a security dimension here, and you alluded to it, but I think it's worth spending some time. The U.S. has tens of thousands of service members deployed in the Middle East. The President of the United States has just announced to the world that they are soon to be used for a project of ethnic cleansing in the most volatile, sensitive region in the world, and I can't help but feel like has essentially painted a target on the back of every service member in the region.
Well, that's exactly what he's done, because this is the most sort of volatile, toxic mix of ideas that you could bring together at this particular moment. And so it will be a moment of great danger for Americans, whether there are servicemen in the region, there are embassy personnel in the region.
Yeah.
It is such an irresponsible and reckless act by the President of the United States. And like you, I found myself just stunned. I mean, he'd been making comments kind of like this leading up to this moment, but to really announce it as U.S. policy, he also said, and we should be very alert for what's happening next, he said within the next 2 weeks, he's going to make some decisions regarding the West Bank. Who knows what he's thinking about there?
You're a U.S. Senator, and obviously you're in the minority. That means that you can't control what happens in the U.S. Senate. But there is a lot of things that U.S. Senators can do because of unanimous consent and because of the way the Senate functions. There's a kind of tacit set of norms that you all have to come to agreement on in order to have the place run. And as a senator, I know you and your colleagues like to see it doing work. At what point does it become important to use every procedural means to essentially bring the body to a halt until this policy and what's happening with Elon Musk and USAID and what seems to be a raft of flagrantly illegal actions are stopped or curtailed?
Well, I think that moment is now. I think that moment is now. And look, a group of us were outside the Department of Treasury today, essentially saying we cannot have business as usual. We're not going to let Elon Musk take over the government of the United States and take these illegal actions to stop federal funds from going to our communities, from trying to replace merit-based civil servants with political cronies, take over the payment system and get access to people's Social Security numbers. So that is now, which is why, Senator Schatz and I and others have said in response to the AID action that we're going to shut down any nominations with respect to Trump appointees in the foreign policy sphere, but I think we need to go more broadly. I've been a very clear advocate for no business as usual, given all of what's happening around our country.
I mean, the President of the United States just announced the U.S. is going to back ethnic cleansing of 2 million people. I just, Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, thank you for making time tonight. I really do appreciate it.
Chris, thank you.